This is Cambridge IGCSE for Paper 2 Multiple Choice Extended, Variant 1, May-June 2016. Question number 1. The rate of diffusion of two gases, methane and ethene, is measured using the apparatus shown. Which gas diffuses faster and why? The gas that diffuses faster will be the gas that is lighter. And if you were to calculate the mass using the periodic table, methane has a relative mass of 12 plus 4, which is 16, whereas ethene has a relative mass of 12 times 2 plus 4, which is equivalent to 28. All right, so it means that our ethene molecule is heavier and our methane is lighter. So answer is C. Methane molecules are lighter and so they move faster. Moving on, number 2. A sample of a dye is investigated by chromatography. A line is drawn across a piece of chromatography paper and a spot of the dye is placed on it. The paper is placed in water. Which row is correct? What is used to draw the line is actually pencil, while the spot must be above the level of the water. Right, so the answer is C. Moving on, question number 3. The paper chromatogram below was obtained from 4 different dyes. Which dye has a retention factor value of 0.7? RF for chromatography is the distance traveled by the solute over distance traveled by the solvent. And you have to use a ruler to measure from the baseline, the distance from the baseline to the solvent front, and then the distance of the baseline from the baseline to the solute. And from here, we see that this spot D is traveling roughly 7 out of 10 of the solvent of the distance from the baseline to the solvent front. So it's our D, all right, that has a RF value of 0.7, which is 7 out of 10, roughly 70% of the distance traveled by the solvent. Or you can use the formula, measure the values here, and then use it to find RF value. All right, moving on. Which statement about isotopes of the same element are correct? Isotopes are atoms of the same element with the same number of protons and electrons, but different number of neutrons. All right, they are the same element, so they should have the same number of protons, which means number 2, it's wrong. Whereas they are atoms which have the same chemical properties because they have the same number of electrons in their outer shell. So 1 is correct. So the answer is 1 and 2. Moving on, number 5. The table shows the electronic structure of 4 atoms. Which 2 atoms combine to form a covalent compound? A covalent compound is formed when nonmetals combine with each other, and nonmetals can be typically found in group 7, group 6, and also I would say some of them in group 5 and group 4. Right? Although group 8 are nonmetals, however, they don't form covalent molecules because they already have a full outer shell in their atomic structure. So our idea is from group 7 to group 4. So our answer here is X and Y, which you can see from their valence electron. X has 4 valence electron, which means that it's in group 4. It's our silicon atom. And Y, which is our group 7 atom, it's a chlorine molecule. Right, so X and Y. Example is our silicon tetrachloride, which is a simple covalent molecule. Moving on, number 6. Which statement describes the attractive forces between molecules? Now, these are weak intermolecular forces formed between molecules. So C. Right, moving on. The diagram represents the general structure of a solid Z. What is Z? We see that these are cations surrounded by these very small negative particles, which doesn't have a fixed position. This is what we call a sea of delocalized electrons. This is actually a metallic lattice, right? A metal structure. So answer is A. Iodine has a simple covalent structure. Silicon dioxide has a giant covalent structure. Sulfur, on the other hand, should have a simple covalent structure. So answer is A. Moving on. A compound X contains 40% carbon, 6.7% hydrogen, and 53.3% oxygen by mass. The relative molecular mass MR of X is 60. What is the molecular formula of X? First of all, we have to determine the mole ratio, or should I say the particle ratio, of these three elements. We are given the mass ratio, in which they are 40 for carbon, 6.7 for hydrogen, and 53.3 for oxygen. Then to find the mole ratio, we have to divide these mass ratios by their respective relative mass, in which is 40 out of 12, 6.7 out of 1, and 53.3 out of 16. And these will give us particular values, which we have to use our calculator for that. The first one is 3.33, the second one is 6.7, and the third one is 3.33 as well. And then we have to find the simplest whole number ratio, which can be found by dividing the smallest number out of the least, which is 3.33. So we get a 1:2:1 ratio. This is our empirical formula. CH2O is the empirical formula. Now, we're not done yet. To find the molecular formula, we have to use this to find the molar mass of the empirical formula. So find the relative mass of the empirical formula, and then its multiple will be 60, which is the relative molecular mass. So which we have to find, this one will be 12 plus 2 plus 16 times n equals to 60, which is equivalent to 30n equals to 60, and our n is 2. It's a multiple of 2, so CH2O multiple of 2 will make C2H4O2. So the answer is D for donkey. Moving on, question 9. 25 cm cube of 0.1 mole per cubic decimeter hydrochloric acid neutralizes exactly 20 cubic centimeters of aqueous sodium hydroxide. The equation for this fraction is as follows. What is the concentration of sodium hydroxide solution? Now, we see that both of them react in a 1:1 ratio in terms of moles. So it means that the moles of sodium hydroxide is equal to the number of moles of PCl used, which we can find it by multiplying the volume by concentration. 25 over 1000 times 0.1. This must be converted to cubic decimeter first. That's why we're dividing by 1000. And then that will give you 0.0025. And we are given that it's 20 cubic centimeters. We just don't know the concentration. So to find concentration, we just need to take the moles divided by the volume. So take the value and make a calculation. It will be 0.0125. Is it? Am I making a mistake? Hold on. Should be 0.125. I must have made a mistake. Hold on. 0.0025 times 0.125. I may have misclicked my calculator. It's 0.125 mole per cubic decimeters. Moving on, question 10. Which reaction could take place at the anode during electrolysis? At the anode, oxidation takes place, in which it's referred to as the loss of electrons. Now, for the loss of electrons, all right, from our list here, it seems like 3 and 4 is not relevant. These are reduction. They are gaining electrons. So the answer is 1 and 2. All right, 1 and 2. The first one can happen for, let's say, dilute sulfuric acid, let's say dilute hydrochloric acid. You will get this equation. For option 2, instead it's like concentrated hydrochloric acid. You'll get this result instead. Okay, move on. The diagram shows some properties that substances may have. To which labeled part of the diagram does uranium-235 belong? Uranium-235 is radioactive and it can be used as an energy source. So the answer is D for donkey. It's not a compound, it's an element. Moving on, 12. The diagram shows a simple cell. Which statement about the process occurring when a cell is in operation is correct? So the idea here is the best answer is C. Zinc is more reactive than copper, so zinc will oxidize, forming electrons. These electrons will be accepted by the electrolyte, and that will actually lead to copper 2 ions getting reduced. So we won't form copper 2 ions. Instead, electrons actually travel in the wires, not the solution, right? Not the solution. And then the zinc electrode should decrease in mass because it's getting oxidized. So answer is C for cat. Moving on, 30. Hydrogen burns exothermically in oxygen. The equation for the reaction is as follows. The table shows the bond energies involved. What is the energy given out during the reaction? Now, hydrogen and oxygen and water can be seen as this particular bond format, right? It's a covalent bond. Hydrogen forms a single covalent bond. Oxygen forms double covalent bond in the oxygen molecule, whereas in water it's two single covalent bonds. Now, to calculate this one, we have to find out the bond breaking energy, which is among the reactants. We break two HH bonds, and also we break one OO bond. So that will give us 1370. Whereas for bond formation, it'll use up 498. So to find enthalpy change, simply take the bond breaking energy minus the bond formation energy. Okay, I must make a mistake. Hold on. Sorry. It breaks this one, but then I must have, wait, sorry. No. It will form 4 OH bonds, sorry. 4 times 4, 6, 4. That will give you 1856. So minus 1856, that should give you negative 486 kilojoule per mole. Right, there's 4 OH bonds here in 2 water molecules. Okay, moving on. 14. A liquid X reacts with solid Y to form a gas. Which two diagrams show suitable methods for investigating the rate of the reaction? The key point here is that it forms a gas. So we can do mass loss method or a gas change volume recording method. So the best answer here is 2 and 4. D for donkey. This is not viable because some gas will escape, leading to inaccurate results if we were to record a volume. Number 3, we didn't even allow the gas to escape because we placed a stopper. So we can't really see any changes in our masses. So the best answer is 2 and 4, which this one allows gas to escape and this one allows you to collect the gas volume. Next, which statements explain why increasing temperature increases the rate of a chemical reaction? So heat makes the molecule move faster and collide more often. That's true. And they make them collide with more energy so that they are more likely to react, which is true as well. And then for increasing temperature, actually doesn't change the activation energy for the reaction. Right, so answer is A. Moving on, question 16. Steam reacts with carbon in an endothermic reaction. Which condition of temperature and pressure will give the largest yield of hydrogen? So we want the equilibrium position to shift to the right. What we must do is, since the right-hand side has more gases than the left-hand side, we have to decrease the pressure so that it favors the gas side with more gas, allowing the equilibrium position to shift to the right. And then our forward reaction is endothermic, which means that to favor endothermic, we must make sure the temperature is high enough. So question 16, the answer is B for boy. Next, which equations represents a reduction reaction? A reduction reaction refers to the gain of electrons. So we see that B and D are irrelevant. So the answer is actually C. When 3 plus receive an electron, they will decrease it to 2 plus. So answer for 17 is C. Moving on, which statements are properties of an acid? acid changes litmus paper to red color, so 2 is irrelevant. And 1 reacts with ammonium sulfate to form ammonia. Now, ammonium salts are actually acidic, so it doesn't react with an acid. So the answer is D for donkey. All right, ammonia is an alkali, but ammonium is acidic. Moving on, question 19. Which role describes whether an amphoteric oxide reacts with acid and bases? An amphoteric oxide is able to react with both acid and bases to form salt and water. So answer for 19 is D for donkey. Question 20. Which substance reacts with a dilute hydrosulfuric acid to form a salt that can be removed from the resulting mixture by filtration? Filtration removes a solid reactant from an aqueous or liquid reactant. In that case, we have to, well, form a precipitate. So we want to remove the salt that is insoluble, which form a solid. So to form a precipitate with sulfuric acid, we need barium chloride, as barium ion is capable of reacting with our sulfate ion from the sulfuric acid, form an insoluble barium sulfate, and this can be removed by filtration. Question 21. Where in the periodic table is the metallic character of the elements the greatest? Metallic character is greater on the left-hand side of the period, whereas it will be greater as you go down the group. So answer for that is A. Moving on, some properties of 4 elements, PQRS, are shown in the table. 2 of these elements are in the group 1 of the periodic table, and 2 of them are in group 7. Which statement is correct? P and R sounds like group 1, as group 1 has very rigorous reaction with water. Whereas for Q and S, it's more of a group 7 characteristic, right? In which either they don't react with water, or either some of them actually dissolve and form a colored solution, right? Such as chlorine form a green solution, and then our bromine and iodine form a brown solution. So from here, we know that R must be below P in group 1, as going down group 1, it gets more reactive. On the other hand, Q and S, Q is a solid, S is a liquid. Q must be below S because it has a higher boiling and melting point. As you go down group 7, the melting point and boiling point increases, where the states gradually change from gas to liquid to solid. So the best answer here is C for cat. Question 23. Which of the following could be a transition element? Transition elements are metallic structure, giant metallic structures, which have a high melting point, high boiling point, high density, right? And then their color of the solid is actually gray. And then they are good electrical conductors because they are free moving electrons. The best answer here is C. Question 24. 2 statements about argon are given. Argon has a full outer shell of electrons, and argon is very reactive and is used in labs. Which one is correct? We know 1 is correct, 2 is wrong. Statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is incorrect. As they have a full outer shell, they are unreactive and inert. Moving on, question 25. A student investigated the results of 4 metals RSTU with solutions of their salts. The results are given in the table. What is the order of reactivity of the metals from most reactivest? So this is a displacement reaction. For example, R reacts with S nitrate and it reacts. Means that R is more reactive than S, which means that it will be able to displace it and form a solution. There will be a positive reaction. Second result show that R is more reactive than T. Third result show that Q is more reactive than S. That's why S cannot displace U from the solution. And then result 4 tells us that T is more reactive than U. And last question tells us that U is less reactive than R. So combining our results all together into a single workflow, into a single flowchart, we know that D is wrong. We know that D is wrong. And we know that C is wrong. Is it? Hold on. Most reactive first. Or I just do it from scratch. Wait. R is more reactive than S and T. R is more reactive than S and T and S and T and U. And then T is more reactive than U. U is more reactive than S. So RTUS. So I say B for what? Question 26. 3 students X, Y, and Z were told that solid P reacts with dilute acids and also conducts electricity. The table shows the students' suggestions about the identity of P. Which of the students are correct? In fact, all 3 of them have free moving electrons, allowing them to conduct electricity. So answer is A. Hey, hold on. Pause. But the reaction with acid, oops, my mistake. The reaction with acid, copper will not be able to react with acid because it's less reactive than hydrogen. So the best answer here is C. Iron reacts with acids. I bet. Okay, so C is the answer. Yeah. Copper is less reactive than acid, so it couldn't displace it, couldn't react with acids at all. 27. Which statement about the uses of metals is correct? Aluminium is used in the manufacture of aircraft because of its strength and low density. Copper is used in electrical wiring because of its strength and high density. Not exactly relevant to the function. You look at others. Mild steel is used in the manufacture of car bodies because of its strength and resistance to corrosion. Whereas stainless steel is used in the construction of chemical plant because of its strength and resistance to corrosion. I think the best answer is D for donkey. Right, D for donkey. Mild steel is not as strong as a stainless steel. Right, so the best answer here is D because stainless steel is made with the intention of it being strong and also its resistance to corrosion. All right. Okay, moving on. Aluminium is manufactured by electrolysis of aluminium oxide. The diagram shows the electrolysis cell. Which statement about the process is incorrect? The answer is D for donkey. D for donkey. The cathode, it isn't cathode, it's your anode. It's the anode of the setup has to be replaced regularly as the anode produces oxygen gas, the oxide gets oxidized and form oxygen gas. In the process, this oxygen gas can actually react with the carbon anode and form carbon dioxide gas. So it's burned away. I burn away. So allowing it it means that we have to replace it regularly. All right, so let's move on to the next question. 29. The diagram shows an experiment to investigate how pain affects the rusting of iron. What happens to the water level in cubes P and Q? So painted iron won't undergo rusting as long as the barrier is not broken. Iron will undergo rusting. So it means that it will consume oxygen and also water vapor, causing the water level to rise. So P will rise, whereas Q will not change. So I say D for donkey. 30. A new planet has been discovered and its atmosphere has been analyzed. The table shows the composition of its atmosphere. Which gases are present in the atmosphere of the planet in a higher percentage than they are in the Earth's atmosphere? So it seems like it has a greater percentage of carbon dioxide and also oxygen. because our air has 0.04% of carbon dioxide and 21% oxygen. So answer is A. Question 31. Many car exhaust systems contain a catalytic converter. Which change does not occur in a catalytic converter? The purpose of a catalytic converter is to convert harmful gases into less harmful emissions. So in that case, and then usually it's by the redox method. So B is relevant. Carbon monoxide is toxic. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, but it at least is better than carbon monoxide. Nitrogen oxides cause acid rain. Nitrogen is a much stable gas that doesn't cause much environmental effect. And then hydrocarbons unburnt are turned into carbon dioxide water. That seems relevant, whereas A wouldn't be possible. Move on. Ammonia is formed by a reversible reaction. The forward reaction is exothermic. Which changes in the condition would increase the yield of ammonia? Forward reaction is exothermic. Plus, the right-hand side has less gas moles compared to the left-hand side, which means we have to decrease the temperature so that it favors the exothermic reaction. And then we will have to increase the pressure so that it will cause the equilibrium position to shift to the right. So the answer is B. Question 33. The equation for an exothermic reaction in a contact process is shown. Which effects do increasing the temperature and using a catalyst have on the rate of formation of sulfur trioxide? Using a catalyst increases the rate of reaction, whereas increasing temperature also increases the rate of reaction. Increasing temperature increases the rate of collision and also the energy of the particles so that they can have more successful collisions, whereas using a catalyst lower activation energy, causing the rate to increase. Moving on. A farmer's soil is very low in both nitrogen and phosphorus. Which fertilizer would improve the quality of the soil most effectively? So it means that we have to increase back the level of nitrogen and phosphorus, which means D for Turkey, which is higher than the others. Next, 35. The diagram shows the separation of petroleum into fractions. What could X, Y, and Z represent? So it will be paraffin, then diesel oil, then lubricating fraction. Right? Moving on. Which of the compounds shown are in the same homologous series? Which means they have the same functional group. We just need to check which one has the same functional group, in which is our 1, 2, and 4. As they are all alcohols, they have a hydroxyl group OH, OH, OH. For number 3, it's a carboxyl group COOH, it's a carboxylic acid. So 1, 2, and 4. Next, which compounds contain the same number of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms? Now, this is a 3-carbon ester. This is a 3-carbon ester as well. This is a 2-carbon ester. This is a 4-carbon ester. How do I know? I look at the coefficients. F means 2 carbon, MEF means 1 carbon. And then, so 2 plus 1 is 3, 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 2 is, 1 plus 1 is 2, and then 2 plus 2 is 4. So from here, I know W and X must have the same number of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms. Right? They are isomers of each other. Moving on. What is an advantage of producing ethanol by fermentation of sugar compared to the catalytic addition of steam to ethene? Now, it's not purer, as the yeast will produce other impurities. The process is actually slower compared to catalytic addition. Instead of high temperature, it uses room temperature. The answer is D, because glucose is renewable. You can get it from sugarcane and other plant materials. Next, the structure of the monomer is shown. Which polymer can be made from this monomer? This is an alkene molecule. It has a carbon-carbon double bond. Carbon-carbon double bond means that it will be able to do addition polymerization. So in that case, we see that it will be B for bond, as this is the repeating unit formed when the double bond opens, form 2 single bonds, and then connects to another repeating unit. Lastly, which formula represents a polyester? An ester has an ester linkage, which is C double bond O, single bond O. So we just need to skim through the whole list and find out which one has this functional group in which it's our C. These molecules have ester linkage, they are polyesters. And that's it for the discussion. If you're struggling in IGCSE chemistry, you can visit our website and see how we can help. We provide online modules for year 11 to year 10 students, and also live masterclass for IGCSE chemistry. If you're interested, just click the link in our description below to learn more about our classes. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.